So hello, this is Rob from JMPR Gaming. Here is a rundown on my Wraithcreepers deck for Warhammer Underworlds online. Let's just pop into the game and have a look. So these guys are all pretty cool fighters. We have Viceroy Drepur, who has 2 hammers for 2 damage with his main attack, all range 2. So when he's inspired, 3 hammers for 2 damage with a reroll, which is very nice indeed. We have Grodrig the Lance. He has 2 hammers for 2 damage again. When he is inspired, he gets Ensnare. So he ignores dodges. Then Hackful. Again, 2 hammers, 2 damage. When he's inspired, he gets Cleave, which is very nice. He has tended to be the guy I make really great. Put all my upgrades on him, generally. And then last but not least, we have the Patrician. He's 3 swords for 1 damage, but when he's inspired that goes up to 3 swords for 2 damage. And he has his Death Beat, which after an opponent's passed up I can push a fighter closer to an enemy. And when he's inspired that becomes 2 fighters, which I always forget. And always sit there staring at the screen wondering why it's not moved on with the game. And that's because I need to tell it I don't want to move too. So let's have a look at the objectives that I've chosen. So starting from the top, Inevitable Advance, score in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more move or charge tokens. That I've found is one of the hardest objectives to score with these guys, because they get a free push just before my turn every round. So it's quite rare that I need to make charge actions. Although we'll find out in a minute that I do often have reasons to make charge actions. On top of that, it is often beneficial, especially if I've got an enemy who defends on a block and has lots of health, and I have Sire Hackfell sitting nearby. I just want to use him to poke. So it does sometimes get in the way a bit. Next up we have Massed Blades. Score this immediately after an activation in which a friendly fighter made an attack action with 1 or more supporting fighters. Again, dead easy to score with these guys because of their pushes. After your turn I push one of my guys adjacent, then I charge with a different one. Job done. It doesn't even need to be a successful attack, I just need to make an attack action. Then we have Scythe Down, scored an end phase if 3 or more enemy fighters are out of action. But yeah. Then next up we have Unstoppable Death. Score immediately after an activation which a friendly fighter made a charge action and took an enemy fighter out of action. So see, this is where I'm now encouraged to put tokens on my fighters. Kill someone on a charge, which of course the first charge you make will miss. So then you have to make another one and another one and another one. So there we go, it's alright. Then we have Vengeance of Nagash. Score immediately after an activation in which a friendly fighter made an attack that took an enemy leader out of action. That's it can sometimes be tricky, because enemy leaders tend to have lots of health, and this generally comes up at a point where I'm not ready to make 2 attacks at an enemy leader to take them down. But the times it's appeared, it's normally been okay. So then next up, Deathly Bloom scored an end phase if your warband holds 1 or more objectives in enemy territory. So you'll see at the start of every one of my games that I play with these, I immediately shove all the objectives in enemy territory, usually just over the line so I can get to them nice and easy, for this reason. Next up, Dread Harvest, scoring an end phase if 2 or more enemy fighters are out of action. Again, it's like Scythe Down, but a little bit easier. Only 2 need to die. Ethereal Hunters next, score immediately after an activation which a friendly fighter made a charge action which they move through 1 or more blocked or occupied hexes. Again, with these guys, it's dead easy. With all the pushes we have, I can change the board state quite quickly to put somebody in the way of my charge. Or if I'm near to an enemy, I can charge through them and attack them from the other side. Really easy stuff. Advancing Strike next. Kill an enemy in their territory. Well, that's where I'm going anyway, so why not? Escalation. Score of 3 or more upgrade cards are played during the preceding action phase. Well, again, I want to kill you. I want to get glory. I want to put upgrades on my fighters to keep them alive and to make them better at killing you. So, yes, why not? Superior Tactician. This has got to be one of my favourite cards in the whole game. Score at the end of the game if I've scored 6 or more other objective cards. As you could see from my 6 or more other objective cards, it's quite straightforward, really. You know, holding an objective in enemy territory, killing 2 of them. My 6 surges I've got here, easy peasy. And then last but probably least, piercing blow. Scoreless immediate after action, which a friendly fighter's attack action with cleave was successful. Now this one's a bit tricky because it's got to be a successful attack, which immediately means you roll failures on your dice. But again, with the push technologies that we've got going on with this warband, it's quite easy to be able to not need to have tokens on your fighters, so you can just sit there and poke until you get a success. And also it's easy to get supports with this lot as well to make your attacks more accurate. In this warband, the only guy I have who could score this is Sire Hackfell. So sometimes I do need to try and remind myself to be a bit more careful about where he is for when this comes up. But I've not had games that have been close enough that I need this to be, that I need this card to go through. So we've been doing okay. Right, next into the Gambits. We have Drifting Death. Choose up to 2 friendly fighters, push them 1 hex closer to the nearest enemy. Straightforward. It's the Patrician's reaction, but for 2 fighters and in a Gambit form. So I can easily move 3 fighters in the opponent's power step towards them, ready for inspiration and fun and games after that. A Horrifying Shriek. We have basically distraction, but with a range of 3 hexes. Again, I'm moving towards them, so they're probably going to be within 3. The good thing about this is being within 3 hexes, I can then push them towards me, so then my guys are within 2 to inspire and attack in the next round without needing tokens. Next up, Methodical Attacks. Play this after a failed attack, make another attack. Now this is again another little awkward one. It's good for increasing accuracy, but this attack action is made outside of the activation. So things like Piercing Blow, Vengeance of Nagash, they're the only 2 that require, I think, successful attacks in an activation. There we go, charge. Yeah, charge takes enemy out of action. So there's 3 objectives there that won't score off the back of Methodical Attacks. But the good thing about these guys is they do about 2 damage each, 3 up to maybe 4 at a push with some upgrades. So usually I'm not killing on my first attack. So if it does fail, I can play this again to try and whittle the enemy down a bit. Next up we have Unending Pursuit. Sidestep for my guys. Choose a friendly fighter, push them 1 hex. Next up, Mischievous Spirits. So because I don't really care about holding objectives, apart from holding 1 in enemy territory, this is a great disruption card for going up against people that want to be on objectives. In particular, the Storm of Celestus. Now, where they can score for being on objectives 2 and 4. There's a 2 glory card for that, a surge card for that, in fact. Then they also have another 2 glory surge for holding any 2 of objectives 1, 3, and 5. So if you see them setting up for this, pop down your Mischievous Spirits, and they're now standing on no objectives. Also, that's a good one to have if your opponent is on objectives. You just walk up next to one objective, and now I take all of their objectives away from them and give one of them to me, which then scores my card for being on objective in enemy territory, and then obviously disrupts theirs. Next we have Ready for Action. Wonderful card. So I'm putting upgrades on because I like to kill stuff. Why not then allow me to kill stuff a bit more? Or make a move action. Can't remember the last time I made a move action with Ready for Action. It was a long time ago. Right, next up, Jewel of Wits. Card draw. When your opponent plays a ploy, I draw 2 power cards. Love it. Spectral Wings. Bit of extra movement. Occasionally I have found a fighter is hiding away at the back somewhere, so this is just in there to give me a bit of extra insurance on that front. So if I'm struggling to reach them, this helps me. As we would have just seen in the last game I played. Actually, I didn't need it in the last game I played, but I could have used it in the last game I played to make my Patrician move a bit quicker, just to help him close the gap, as he's the guy that doesn't have a range 2 attack. Then next up we have Distraction, an old classic, push an enemy fighter, great. And then Enervating Beat, play this in my power step, -1 damage to enemies, range 1 and range 2 attack actions. Really useful card. Sire Hackfell and Grodrig the Lance only have 3 damage to start with, so anyone doing 2 damage and potentially pitching them into a lethal or playing trap or twist the knife is finishing them off. And there's a lot of 2 damage around. And also 3 damage with no extras obviously kills them outright. So this is a great little one to try and keep you alive a bit longer. And then my last gambit is Hidden Paths. Now I think I'm going to drop Hidden Paths and I'm going to replace it with something else. I haven't decided what yet. Probably Sidestep. What I really want is something to kill the, not kill the enemies, push the enemies, but I'm not sure such a thing exists. And so I think, mind you, I could, no, I can't go for trap or twist the knife or my turn because they're restricted. I've got my restrictions already. In actual fact, what I could do is leave this as it is with just the 10 power cards instead of 11. We'll do that. We'll leave it at 10. Right then, in the upgrade section, next we have a bit of strength. Basically great strength, +1 strength, +1 damage. Good for my little 2 damage guys, helps them be a bit more fighty. Then we have Deathly Vigour, +1 wounds. Generally goes on my 3 wound guys to make them up to 4. Memories of the Hunt, +1 move. I probably don't need that. I'm going to drop that one. I've not really found movement to be a problem with all the pushes they have available. Next up we have Murder Pact. Now this is a really interesting card. I like this one. So if the fighter that has this upgrade on is supported by someone else, then his attack has got +1 damage, which is great. It's great strength basically. But if this guy, the fighter that has this upgrade on is supporting another fighter, then that fighter gets +1 dice, which is a nice little accuracy buff as well. So we can easily make these guys, well, it makes them 3 dice. I also have in here light armor for an extra dice as well. So it can end up with 4 dice attacks, which is really nice, very helpful. Next up we have great strength. They need more damage, I think. Only doing a flat 2 to start with. It's a bit low. Next we have great fortitude, +1 wounds. Again, goes on the 3 wound guys. So with those 2 +1 wound upgrades, I now have 4 wound fighters across the board. Then light armor, again extra attack dice, nice and easy. Does have a downside of my crits on my defense dice not working, but I've not really found that a problem. You just keep light armor in your pocket until the right moment when you're going to make that one attack that you need to go off, and then you don't really mind so much if your fighter dies afterwards because they've probably done their job. And then we have acrobatic, +1 defense for these guys because they all defend up dodges. So when they're inspired, this guy, the guy who has acrobatic on, is 3 defense. Lovely. Awakened weapon, reroll 1 dice in attack. The point of death, reroll 1 dice in attack, but during a fighter's charge action. So that's 2 rerolls, and with Murder Pact, potentially 2 extra ways of getting more dice. So these guys can be scarily accurate. And with the addition that they don't necessarily need to charge to get their attacks in, or you can easily be putting out, the same guy can easily be putting out 3 attacks during a round with rerolls, add extra dice, and all sorts of fun. And then my last upgrade, Murderous Accomplice. Oh yes, I think this is the one I was going to get rid of. So this is another push, but very dependent on the situation. It can only go on Grodrig, and then after another one of my fighters' move action, made as part of a charge action, Grodrig can push himself up to 2 hexes, so he's adjacent to the target of the attack. I found normally my guys are so close together, and with the Patrician's drumbeat, don't really need this as well. Anyway, there we go. Alright, catch you next time when I find another opponent. Goodbye.